Hi! So, I'm going to be talking to you about what I've found out about John Steinbeck. And I might not sound very enthusiastic because I just got back from work. But, it's there. So, the bulk of my research has been online, so I'm going to focus on that for the most part. I started out on JSTOR in ProQuest Literature Online. And on JSTOR I found a couple of really strong articles that I've been going back to, called John Steinbeck on the Political Capacities of Everyday Folk, and John Steinbeck, Novelist as Scientist. And this one focuses on nature and nature as a theme and how he uses it in his books, and also where science comes into that and how he was a pretty scientific person. And that distinguished him as a writer at that time because no one else was really doing it, at least in the way he was. And this one is obviously more political. It talks about both his life and politics in his works. Has lots of interesting information. Steinbeck is a political guy because his parents were active in the town's political affairs and social organizations. And so it talks about his life, and yeah. And then, this one was actually especially helpful because of the footnotes. From the footnotes, I noticed that at some point it references the Steinbeck Quarterly, and so I looked that up, and I find out that Ball State University has every issue of the Steinbeck Quarterly, which was made by the John Steinbeck Society of America. And I haven't really looked at any of them in depth too much, but I've perused them, and they seem to be a really interesting collection of criticism on his works, information on his life, themes in his works, and stuff like that. And then, on ProQuest Literature Online, I noticed primarily that a lot of what they have is from the Steinbeck Review. And so I look at that, I look it up, and I find that JSTOR has every issue of the Steinbeck Review, and this is just a really interesting collection, kind of in the same vein as the Steinbeck Quarterly. It's issues that are made of articles, information about his life, criticism, a rhetorical view of Chinese immigration in East of Eden. I don't know how much I'll get into really specific stuff like that, and there is even more specific stuff, there was some post-feminism, sentimentalism, and more isms in just one article that I looked at in here. And that's probably not going to be my thing, but it's really interesting, and it's a huge collection of information that will be really useful, I think, hopefully. So, this I also found really interesting. It's the speech he gave upon receiving his Nobel Prize. And the fact that he received a Nobel Prize is really interesting, considering how in so many cases the reception that his books received was kind of negative. He was banned in a lot of libraries and schools across the country, and that does say a lot about how ultimately impactful his writing was. But this is interesting because it just adds a new dimension to what I've been reading, because what I've been reading is what other people think about what happened in the past, about his books and how they were received. And this is his own actual words about who he is, what he believes, and why he's receiving a Nobel Prize. And it's interesting. And this website, not very credible, but it has a list of sources that are credible. There's the Steinbeck Quarterly, there's the Stanford University Steinbeck Collection, and I mostly mentioned this website because it pointed me towards this, which is Steinbeck's FBI record, and I'm not going to waste time talking about it because I'm not sure how if I'm even going to use it. I'm probably not. I just thought it was really interesting and I wanted it to be in the video. So, anyway, I also bought this book that someone, I don't remember who, brought up in class, this is going to be a useful source because most of everything else I found was criticism. I had a source that was interviews and letters, but the library canceled the interlibrary loan. They said they couldn't find it, even though I had found it in Eastern's library, and I know that they get books from there. So anyway, this is going to be really helpful, and it's going to fill in the gap that was left by the library canceling my loan. So anyway, a little bit real quickly about my physical books. I haven't looked at these as much as my online sources. This is a collection of this John Steinbeck by Harold Bloom is a collection of criticism about themes, mostly in his books. There's quite a bit about nature. The Novelist to Scientist article is in here. And John Steinbeck, a usable concept of naturalism. And kind of an interesting thing that compares one of his works to The Wasteland. And then this is interesting. I'm not sure when I'm going to cite it, even though it's a really nicely written biography. I mostly like the pictures in it. They're kind of pictures that feel like they take you to John Steinbeck's works. And kind of the feeling of them, I guess. Like, a young man worried about his future sits on a park bench. And there's also like pictures of farmers and people immigrating. And there's a picture of Cannery Row, the real thing. And there's that. And this is a political companion. It goes a lot more in depth about how his works were received, who Steinbeck was politically, both in his own life and activities, how he spent his time. He was very involved in politics, and politics in his works. And then this is nice, this critical companion to Steinbeck, because it goes through each and every one of his works individually. It gives the early criticisms and also the modern perspectives. And I appreciate that, those side by side, to kind of look at and compare. Anyway, that's my video. Thank you.